Okay, welcome in. In this video, we're going to talk about data frames, very central object in R. I personally prefer data tables, which are similar, a bit maybe more powerful and flexible, but I think they're very similar. And I think understanding one leads to an easy understanding of the other. And it's probably best to start with data frames since they are so common in the base of R. So let us start by loading a kind of pre-loaded data frame in R. That's something called mtcars, which there's a bunch of these like preloaded databases in R. You can load stuff in from Excel, create your own data, but you can always like load the pre-data. And if I run this, I get this nice data frame of all this different data. And I can always check if something I have is a data frame by running this class function. It tells me the class of the object I'm working with. In this case, it is a data frame. But anyways, back to the data. Let's save it as, or I guess we'll just do mtcars since we don't really have to redefine anything. But let's look at the kind of top of mtcars to sort of get us an idea. We can do that with head mtcars. Head just lets us look at the first 5, 6, or 7. In this case, it looks like it's 6. The first 6 rows in mtcars. It gives us a sense. An analogous function is tail. So we can look at the bottom 6. We can also, if we want to look at the last 10, we would just add the argument 10, and then we can look at the bottom 10. But this is a nice way to kind of get a sense of the top of the data. If we want to get the full data, we're going to type view with a capital V, mtcars. We're going to hit enter, and it's going to pop up in the top left, kind of an easier, or kind of the full data set, and an easier way to view it. And it's really nice. If you want to sort by disp, which I assume is displacement, you click this button to either sort by ascending or descending. You can search for like all of the, or I guess in this case, we can search for like specific numbers. So here, like I want to search for all 4 cylinders, and I did that here. So a nice kind of like dynamic sorting thing. But anyways, we have this data, and we have a bunch of rows and we have a bunch of columns. And this is like any data you've seen before. Each row is a specific car. We have the Mazda RX-4, Mazda RX-4 WAG, Datsun 710, and we have a bunch of different data about it. So the MPG, the cylinders, I assume this is displacement. I'm not sure what these values are, to be honest, but they're just some like numerical summary of the car. And they don't have to be numerical. They can be characters, whatever. It will make things trickier, but in this case, it's nice. It's a very clean numerical data set. In fact, you probably usually prefer that, but it's nice. It's a table of data that we can see. And notice that we don't actually have an explicit row for car. There's no like label here that says car. That's because in this case, the row names of mtcars are the actual cars. So we don't say these under a specific column. We just have them kind of as the row names. But again, just kind of a nice table of data. And we can dive into this data, like let's actually like start to play with the data frame. If we want to like dive into the different columns, we just type this $ operator, which is a very important operator in R. So mtcars $. That lets us access all the different columns within mtcars. If I want to look at MPGs, I just click and hit enter, and look at that. This is it just takes the MPG column of mtcars and returns it as a vector for me. And just to confirm, if we look at the head of mtcars, we see MPG 21, 21, 22.8. Those are the first 3 values in mtcars MPG. So it just allows us mtcars $MPG. So it just allows us to pull out a vector, pull out a column in mtcars as a vector. Now, let's say I wanted to add a new column, or I wanted to adjust a column or something. That's really easy to do as well. So let's say I want to add a new column called mpg underscore new. And let's say that is a transformation of my mpg column. Let's say, let's say I want to do kilometers per hour, so kmh. And that's some like we have to transform that from our mpg. I don't know what the actual transformation is, unfortunately, but let's say I think it's like 1.67. So we just take our mpg values, multiply 1.67, we hit enter, and all of a sudden I noticed doing that actually saved it technically in my environment, but that doesn't, that's kind of an aside. Doing that now I have, let me look at the head. Now I have this nice KMH column, and each of these values, because R is nicely vectorized, this 35.070 is just 21 times 1.67, and so on down the line. So it's very easy to add, different columns and adjust columns as needed. And if you don't like the column anymore, if you want to remove it, you just select it and you assign the value null to it, which is, as you can see here, represents the null object in R. So if I run this, and I look at my my data frame, that column is no longer there. Right? It took KMH out. And if I wanted to run this again, if I ran this null code again, nothing would happen because the column is already gone. Although sometimes you'll see a warning like the column is not here. We have nothing to remove. So it's very easy to manipulate columns and add columns. It's also relatively easy to index into the data frame, just like it is with matrices. So again, you're going to do square brackets, and you might look at, again, the format is before the comma is the row or the set of rows. After the comma is the column or the set of columns. So in this case, we're going to do rows 5 through 10, columns 3 through 4. Oh, sorry, that's not X, empty cars. And here we have rows 5 through 10, columns 3 through 4, a subset of the data frame. And that's really useful if we want to obviously get a subset of our data. And a nice thing is, let's say you want to pull out like the car that has the best MPG. So you can use that format to see, we can use the function which.max, which tells us which element in a vector is the maximum. So which.max, MT cars, MPG. And we're going to select all columns. We run that and we get the Toyota Corolla. And diving into this which.max, if we run this, it tells us, basically we're asking the question, which of the MT cars MPGs is the maximum? It's element 20. We pull out, this becomes 20. So the 20th row of empty cars is Toyota Corolla. And we can just confirm that by looking here. We can also, we can run which min instead of which max. So what car gets the worst MPG? That's the Cadillac Fleetwood with an MPG of 10.4. So that's a very basic intro to data frames, but probably will get you a long way in terms of working with them, transforming them. Again, I kind of prefer data tables for kind of other, other reasons in terms of ease of use and sort of the power flexibility, but very similar to data frames, and will get you very far in your R work. So we'll see you next time.